There's something about watching Obi-Wan scream, "You were my brother," while Anakin flails around on fire that just hits different after 7 seasons of Clone Wars. Like sure, Revenge of the Sith was emotional before, but now it feels like someone ripped out your childhood memories, lit them on fire, and then force-pushed them into a lava river. Because we didn't just see them fight, we saw them bond, and then break. Back in the day, if you only watched the movies, their relationship was fine. Solid, a little stiff maybe. Like co-workers who carpool but never hang out after hours. But Clone Wars made them real. They bantered mid-blaster fight, pulled each other out of exploding cruisers, even argued like brothers over how to handle space politics and emotionally unstable Sith Lords. You watch them build something meaningful, and then you watch the galaxy set it on fire. And now every little detail hits harder. The sarcasm, the tension, the loyalty, the unspoken "I've got your back no matter what" energy. It all builds up, episode after episode, until Mustafar feels less like a tragic end and more like a betrayal of everything they were. It's not just a fall from grace, it's a full-blown emotional demolition. What's worse is, you see how close they were to making it out. Obi-Wan knew something was off. Anakin was spiraling but still reachable. And then the Jedi Council pulled a classic, "let's split up the dream team" at the worst possible moment move, and sent Obi-Wan off to fight a cyborg, while Palpatine whispered dark poetry in Anakin's ear. You can literally feel the missed opportunities stacking up like droid bodies on G. And it's wild, because they both wanted the same thing. Peace, loyalty, some kind of stability in the chaos. But the war twisted their paths just enough to put them on opposite sides of the very thing they were fighting to protect. And suddenly that trust is gone. And all that's left is fire, tears, and the sound of a heart shattering in Dolby surround sound. In this video, we're breaking down how the Clone Wars transformed Anakin and Obi-Wan's friendship from a fun little subplot into one of the most gut-wrenching relationships in all of Star Wars. We're talking betrayal, banter, heartbreak, loyalty, and lightsabers, and how a cartoon series somehow made a galaxy far, far away feel way too real. There's something weird that happens when you re-watch Revenge of the Sith after binging the Clone Wars. Suddenly that final battle on Mustafar doesn't just feel like the fall of a Jedi. It feels like watching your 2 best friends fight to the death after years of sharing foxholes, pizza slices, and inside jokes about the Council. And you're just stuck there, mouth open, wondering how the galaxy let it get that far. Before the Clone Wars, we knew Anakin and Obi-Wan were close. But close was kind of a vague term in the movies. They had chemistry, sure, but there was always this weird emotional distance. But Clone Wars filled in that gap. Suddenly they weren't just co-workers in robes. They were brothers in every sense, arguing, laughing, saving each other, and occasionally yelling across exploding The show let us see them in ways the films didn't have time for. They cracked jokes mid-battle, got frustrated with each other's decisions, shared war stories with clones, and leaned on each other when no one else understood what it meant to be a Jedi during wartime. We saw them go undercover, deal with death, fight bounty hunters, and argue about attachments like it was Thanksgiving dinner at the Jedi Temple. That context changes everything. It adds weight to every little line. When Anakin calls Obi-Wan "my father" and "my brother" on Mustafar, it doesn't come out of nowhere. We saw it happen. We lived through the missions, the near-deaths, the impossible choices. And by the time Order 66 rolls around, you're not just watching a fall. You're watching something that was built over years collapse in a matter of minutes. And it makes you wonder, was this always going to happen? Could anything have stopped it? Or were we always barreling toward that volcanic heartbreak the moment these two started trusting each other? Honestly, watching the Clone Wars just makes Anakin's fall more maddening. Not because he was doomed from the start, but because it was also preventable. We saw how capable he was, how deeply he cared, and how much Obi-Wan tried to anchor him. And still, every institution around them seemed hell-bent on letting them both down. Let's start with the Jedi Council. They trusted Obi-Wan to mentor Anakin, then spent the entire war second-guessing him. They played politics with Anakin's future, used him as a spy, refused to give him the rank of master, and basically handed him over to Palpatine with a bow and a Jedi-themed gift card. And poor Obi-Wan just had to sit there and pretend everything was fine. You could see the cracks forming season by season, every time Anakin disobeyed orders and Obi-Wan defended him. Every time Obi-Wan got stuck between loyalty to the Order and love for his friend. It wasn't just bad choices, it was emotional sabotage disguised as Jedi discipline. And let's not forget Ahsoka's departure, which drove an even bigger wedge between them. A moment the Council never truly fixed. The tragedy of it all doesn't really hit you in the movies. It hits you when you've seen them side by side through 7 seasons of war. When you've watched Anakin risk his life to save Obi-Wan from Dooku. When Obi-Wan quietly watches Anakin grow darker and doesn't know how to stop it. That's when the heartbreak starts to bleed through. There's an episode where they're stranded on a ship, exhausted, surrounded by death, and they just sit there and talk. Not as Jedi, not as warriors, just as two people trying to survive something that's breaking both of them. Those little moments made their friendship real, grounded, human, and that's what makes the ending unbearable. When Obi-Wan sees Anakin burning on Mustafar, when he says, "You were my brother," we feel it, because we've seen the memories. We've lived through their worst fights and best victories. We remember them laughing on the bridge of a cruiser, fighting side by side on Umbara, leaning on each other after losing friends. All of that goes up in smoke in one lightsaber duel. And Obi-Wan didn't just lose a friend. He lost the only person who truly understood him. Someone who could challenge him, tease him, call him out, and still have his back when it mattered. Anakin may have become Vader, but Obi-Wan lost more than a Padawan. He lost family, and he had to walk away while that family screamed in agony. It's not just a duel. It's a funeral for everything they built, everything they protected, everything they once were. And it leaves a silence that no amount of Force ghosts can ever really fill. But let's be real, their bond was legendary. Watching them in the Clone Wars wasn't just character development, it was a masterclass in partnership. These two had more chemistry than half the romantic pairings in Star Wars. They finished each other's thoughts mid-battle. They saved each other without hesitation. And they constantly challenged each other to be better. Anakin brought out Obi-Wan's emotional side. He made him question the rules, trust his instincts, and be more than just a council mouthpiece. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan gave Anakin structure, discipline, and the kind of quiet mentorship Anakin never got from the Jedi as a whole. Together, they balanced each other in ways that no other duo in Star Wars really matched. But here's the thing. Even in all that loss, there's something beautiful left behind. Because Anakin and Obi-Wan's story didn't just end with fire and betrayal. It echoed into the next generation, into Luke and Leia, into Ahsoka, and even into the redemption of Vader himself. You can see Obi-Wan's hope in the way he watches over Luke. He's not just protecting the Chosen One's son. He's guarding the last spark of the man he once called brother. That quiet belief that Anakin still exists, somewhere inside that armor, that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't lost forever. And Anakin, even at his worst, never fully let go of Obi-Wan. That's why he raged so hard on Mustafar. That's why he couldn't bring himself to kill him. That pain wasn't just anger, it was grief. Twisted, buried, but still there. Even as Vader, Anakin carried the weight of what they had, and what he destroyed. And then Luke comes along, and somehow, someway, that love breaks through the armor. Anakin chooses to save his son, not just because of blood, but because deep down, that old bond still mattered. That spark of humanity that Obi-Wan never gave up on was still flickering inside him. So yeah, their brotherhood ended in tragedy, but it also lit the way for redemption. And that's the kind of hope that makes Star Wars more than just space battles. It makes it human. In the end, the reason Anakin and Obi-Wan's fall hurts more after watching Clone Wars is simple. It made them real. It gave them time, space, vulnerability. It let us see who they were underneath the robes, and that made their downfall hit like a gut punch wrapped in a lightsaber duel. It wasn't just the fall of the Republic or the rise of Vader. It was the death of a friendship that could have saved everything. A bond that, in another world, might have endured, might have healed, might have stopped the darkness before it ever fully took root. But that's what tragedy is, right? It's not just watching something break. It's knowing it could have been saved, that the pieces were all there, just never put back together in time. We saw the love, the trust, the laughter, and then we watched it all get buried beneath betrayal and fire. Still, we remember them not just for how it ended, but for everything that came before. Every joke, every mission, every moment where they made each other stronger. That's why their story sticks with us, because it wasn't clean or perfect, but it was honest. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy my videos, please consider looking at my pinned comment and checking out the links for my Amazon storefront. It contains my favorite Legos, my gear in which I make videos, and comics that I read on a daily basis. I update it constantly, so please, take a moment and click on the link. On top of that, check out my second channel, Critical Analysis Hub Plus, and my third channel, Critical Analysis Hub XP. Just one click would go on a long way in supporting my channels and future in YouTube.